And a very good morning to everybody out there. How you guys doing today? Got me a little fresh green packed in there. Take a hit right quick, and then we'll get on to some news. Mostly because this actually affects everybody. I thought we'd talk about a presidential electoral coming up. Mr. Bernie Saunders is actually looking pretty good for the marijuana regime so far. He hasn't actually directly addressed marijuana. Instead, what he's actually going after is the private corporate profiteering prison system. What he's trying to do is he wants to introduce a bill next month that would eliminate the privatized prison. So basically what it is that we actually have private prisons out there who is actually making a profit off of putting people into these prisons, because what's happening is they're able to pay them a low wage of like $1 an hour, 25 cents an hour, slave wages, and make them do the work that they need done for their jobs. Basically sweatshops. I mean, these people are working like sweatshops, and most of their crimes are just what I'm doing right now, smoking weed. So they get caught smoking weed, they got arrested, they're put into a private prison, and they have to work alongside other people, car thieves, violent criminals. They have to work next to these other people and work for little to no wages whatsoever. Even work to get their time off. So to the corporates, this is awesome. To America, this is bad. So what he's trying to do is actually target these corporations, and I mean, it's going to make a lot of enemies, because who wants to lose that profit? Now his main objective about this is the non-violent drug offenders. People like me who just want to smoke a little bit. You know, why should I go to prison, work for free, and, you know, have my entire life ruined, turned upside down, have that stuff on my record for the rest of my life, never be able to get a real job, and have to continue trying to get back into the prison system just to work. Now, according to his speech that he gave last week, he does plan to open up within the next few weeks about his stance on the legalization of marijuana. So keep on the ear out for that. As a heads up though, his official site does give a quote from him saying it has medicinal properties and should be legalized for medicinal use. Now, basically he's saying that he supports the medicinal legalization of marijuana on his official Saunders website. Now, for recreationally, he basically just continues to state that he's looking towards Colorado and other legal states to see exactly where they go from there. So, as they continue, as Colorado and Washington and all them continue to build up revenue, if he sees positive things going on, then that's probably going to be the way that he leans as a presidential election. So, now, as a little history, his little background history, when he was running for governor of Vermont back in 1972, he actually penned a note suggesting to abolish all drug laws, or all laws dealing with drugs. So, you know, that's actually kind of funny that, you know, where we stand now, hopefully he feels that same way now that he did back in 1972. Now that's a few decades, quite a few decades back, But, you know, if he still has that same thought and that same mentality, you know, he could be our hopeful. He could be our marijuana hopeful for president, you know. Bernie Saunders pushing us in. I guess the few times that he did try marijuana, his thoughts on it just wasn't my thing. It wasn't for me. Didn't do nothing for me. So, I mean, that's pretty cool, you know. I mean, we got a president that we can actually stand behind. He's a Democrat. A lot better than Hillary Clinton, I can tell you that. He's actually leading Hillary Clinton right now. That's one lady that needs to be out. She's right up there with Chris Christie. I mean, wow. Both of those people are, yeah, no. But of course, going off of the abolish all drugs, I guess as a side note, they're saying that the DC's Attorney General is in support of decriminalization of all drugs. That caught my attention. I'm like, why would the Attorney General be in support of this? So I went ahead and read the article. So I guess he actually came on to an interview on C-SPAN's Washington Journal, and basically what he was talking about was the fight against synthetic marijuana. Now, we all know spice. We talked about it. It's terrible stuff. It's bad. It's killing people. It's making other people eat other people's face and stuff. Terrible, okay? This is bad stuff. So, but along this lines, he basically is talking about this on his show when a caller from Illinois actually calls in and says that one of the primary reasons for the alternative high exists is because of the continued prohibition of all drugs. The caller, of course, continues on about how it, you know, he talks about all drugs like cocaine and heroin and stuff like that and how it's on. Now, somehow, I guess the story is twisted from his response, couple responses that he made, basically to make it sound like he's in favor of all drugs. Now, he did make some kind of comment stating that, you know, we are in a different time era than we used to be, and we need to address it in a different way because prohibition's not working. That's what it sounded like to me. But I'll go ahead and read you his quote, okay? It was a pretty long quote here. This was his response to the caller. I respect the caller's perspective and in many ways agree with the caller's central point, namely that the law enforcement and over-criminalization of drug laws can cause more harm to a society than benefit. Putting people into jail, making them lose their jobs, making them lose the ability to ever get a job, yeah, that really harm our society, because how are these people supposed to work and build tax revenue? What happens to the economy when these people can't even buy shoes for their kids' feet? You know, I mean, yeah, these type of things would ruin our society after a while. He also continues on to say, with respect to the chemical drugs, the recipe is clear. We know what's going to happen when people ingest it. It's not merely personal use and two adults not harming anyone. Violence as to innocent people occurs. And when that occurs, the state has to get involved. So basically what he's stating is harder drugs, we all know to be associated with violence. You know, people are harming other people. They're getting doped up. They're going out. They're breaking into cars. They're, you know, destroying property. They're hurting other people. They're robbing people, killing people for money. I mean, when you have this mentality, I had an uncle who did the same thing. I mean, may he rest in peace, but, you know, he one night went out on drugs, didn't know what he was doing. He was all doped up. Decided that he was in the mood for love, and the girl that he ran across was not. You know, when he got hurt, he got got taken to jail and everything, ended up in the hospital. When he was finally detoxed of the drugs and realized what he did, with remorse, he tried to hang himself in the hospital. So, drugs are bad. They cause people to think weird. I mean, marijuana doesn't do this, but other drugs, cocaine, speed, methamphetamines, heroin, all these things cause your mind to change in a way that you think differently than you would normally think. Basically, one of the things that I heard him stand by, all I heard him say was that the reason why is just violent activities will mean that we need to be involved, that the state needs to be involved in some way, shape, or form. I totally agree. That's the reason why we have laws against these higher drugs. But he does continue on to talk about marijuana, stating that Congress should get out of the way and allow the District of Columbia to regulate the legal use of marijuana. So yes, the district attorney is gung-ho for the legal use of marijuana. Period. I mean, from marijuana's side, he's stating that that alone will probably be what actually takes the synthetic side off. That alone will change a lot of stuff. And maybe from there, we can actually continue to address. He actually compared it to, I forgot where it was. There is actually a country that completely decriminalized all drugs whatsoever. And since they have actually found more users are starting to seek help. More people are starting to have less problems, less cases of AIDS. Stuff like this is starting to happen, and just their crime rate is starting to drop as well. I mean, drastically. So with that, he compared us to that country. That maybe something like that can happen in the future after looking at marijuana. So, yeah. We got the Attorney General here talking about marijuana is great, and is hopefully we'll get synthetic marijuana off the street if we just regulate regular marijuana and actually do what the rest of the country's starting to do. I'm gung-ho for what he's saying. Same thing with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, listen out for him in the next few weeks. I guarantee you his standpoint on legalized marijuana will be such that it should be legalized. Bernie Sanders for president, I guess. I mean, right now he's got my vote. Everything I've been reading about him, he's got my vote right now. But I hope you guys have been well informed. This is basically what's going on in the world. This is what's going on in your news right now. So, ooh, nice hits going on. It's time for me to get out of here and get some breakfast. I'm starting to feel a little hungry. So you all out there, stay active. Check out the news. I'll post the descriptions below. Stay active in your community. Go out there and vote when the time comes up if you're 18 and older. And as I always say, stay peaceful. Have a peaceful, positive, and productive day. Coming at you guys.